Hi, and welcome to the 401k Marketing Podcast, where we break down retirement plan trends, advisor strategies, and this evolving workplace benefits landscape. Today, we're diving into the new era of startup 401k plans and why it's no longer your father's retirement plan. So joining us is Kevin Spaeth, the director at PenChecks, to explore how auto-enrollment, auto-escalation, and payroll integration platforms are really digitally changing everything. So we're going to talk about safe harbor rules, state-mandated IRA requirements, advisor hesitations, maybe, to the microplan space, and how these new tax credits could make 401ks virtually free for the first 3 years. So if you're an advisor who's been maybe a little bit hesitant to do startup plans, or you're looking for creative ways to talk to your employers about how to expand their current retirement plan benefits, then this episode is for you. So with that, welcome to the podcast, Kevin.
Thank you very much for having me, Rebecca. It's great to see you again, even virtually.
Well, Kevin, you've been in this retirement plan world for a hot minute. I've known you for 15-ish years at this point, so small amount of time.
Yeah, I'm like those numbers can't be right because 15 years ago was the 90s, right?
It goes by so fast, so fast.
15 years ago was 2010. Oh my God.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. Well, let's kind of dive in to the startup world. And in your experience, what has really changed in this landscape? And how can you expand on why it's not your father's retirement plan anymore?
Sure. So, I've been involved with startup plans for a long time now. When I spent my time at American Funds, we rolled out our shares and Record Keeper Direct, which is a startup plan product. And then when I left American Funds to work for National Retirement Services, the third party administrator, that was actually the month that PPA was passed, which, said that auto enrollment is okay and it doesn't violate any garnishment wage laws. And I thought there's going to be immediate pickup in auto enrollment. I thought everybody was going to be in it, especially in the small plan marketplace. But there was a lot of hesitation for it, and it never really kind of took off. Yeah. So Craig Douglas said to me one time, and this was back in '06 or '07, that the enrollment meeting is dead. We know that it just doesn't work. You get your average participation rate is 6%, average deferral rate is 3%. And that kind of has never changed, at least in the small plan market space. No matter what we've done with all the different kind of enrollment meetings or whatnot, you've seen a little uptick with people being able to log on their smartphones during the meeting, but still not enough people were saving for retirement. So when Secure and Secure 2.0 came out and said that, going forward, all startup plans that were started as of, I think it was on or after 12/30/2021, would be auto enroll with auto escalation. So, and now that time has come. So all startup plans now have that built in if they've got more than 10 employees. And in the past, if you look at it, with the average deferral, with the average participation being 60%, average deferral being 3%, these startup plans would just chug along. But with auto enrollment, you've got 90 to 95% participation with the deferral rate starting at 3 or 6% and then escalating up to 10. So I think if you do the math over time with the power of compounding, that's such a great part of 401k plans, you'll see these plans jump up rather quickly in assets. You could be instead of having a plan having, let's say, $80,000 or $100,000 after 2 or 3 years, it could have $500,000. It could get up to $1 million rather quickly. Yeah. And so everybody that would make asset-based compensation, the advisor, the record keeper, the fund companies, are going to see a huge leap in profitability. But what's most important is we're going to be doing what we should be doing, what ERISA says we should be doing, and that we're going to be doing what's in the best interest of the participants. And these people are going to be more prepared to live a comfortable life in retirement.
I'm so glad as an industry we've started talking about the retirement income replacement ratio and how you have to put dollars in order to get dollars out. And to put dollars in, it's just deferrals. You need more deferrals. So if you get someone in who's at, like you said, auto enroll them at 6, auto escalate them to 10 to 15, now it's like it's humming, it's moving.
Yep.
Things are working in their favor. And since it's done before they get their paycheck, a lot of times folks, they don't always recognize it until years later, and they look at their statements and are like, whoa, I have 6 figures in here. Like, how did that happen?
Yeah. Oh my God. Yeah. You think about what's the average American got in their checking or savings account versus all of a sudden they'll get their 3rd or 4th statement and they're like, holy moly, that's a lot of money, And I also think it's important that I just lost my train of thought, but I think it doesn't matter we talk about fees all the time. I'm sold. I remember when we talked about returns, and what funds you could put in the lineup, but now it's all about fees. But fees and returns don't matter because, as Wayne Gretzky says, you miss 100% of the shots that you don't take. And the return or the fees on certain funds don't matter if you're not participating.
Yeah.
The biggest variable about getting to retirement is how much you save, not whether or not you're getting charged 5 basis points or 10 basis points. It's how much are you saving, how much are you putting in there. Of course, fees matter, but they don't matter as much as participation and deferrals.
In your years of working with business owners, hand in hand, sitting across the table, you've probably heard a lot of different things, whether they're like not yet or we're getting around to it, or, what are some of the most common misconceptions you've heard from business owners who've delayed setting up their company's retirement plan for the past, 10 years? What have you heard?
I've heard that it's just, I don't have the time. And, when after going through the migration of the Mass Mutual business over to the Empower platform, I kind of looked at something a different way. I don't call the majority of the clients that we work with plan sponsors because they're really not. A plan sponsor would be somebody at Alaska Airlines or Bob's Red Mill or, something like that. The majority of the clients that we're dealing with, especially in the TPA marketplace, are just small business owners. And this is one of the many things that they have to worry about. So they kind of just kick it down the line. And what we need to do is make them not kick it down the line. Now, I know we've had a turbulent market so far in 2025, but if you look at 1/1/2014 to 12/31/2024, the market returned 220%.
Yeah.
Now, what do you think would happen if we had auto enrollment with auto escalation 10 years ago? And we had 50% higher participation in the plans with deferral rates going from 3% all the way up to 10% over time. You can imagine how much better as a country we'd have our workers prepared to live a comfortable life in retirement.
Yeah, and we're right now in peak 65, so 11,400 folks a day. So it's being discussed at dinner tables. And if you're a younger employee and you're hearing, mom, dad, grandparents talk about retiring, now you're like, it hits differently than I think in the past, where we still had one foot in pension land and then one foot in defined contribution land. It'll be interesting how the next decade looks as we do have auto enroll and auto escalate and enhancing market savings.
And I forget what generation we're up to. Is it Z's, Y's, K's, millennials, whatever? But I think they're going to be a lot better prepared for retirement than a Gen Xer like myself or a baby boomer, because my dad was never covered under a pension plan. My mom was working for a school district, but my dad was an obsessive saver. So he's been retired He retired from the Metropolitan Museum of Art maybe 18 years ago. And he said he's got more money now than he did when he retired, thanks to the stock market.
That's
But he
awesome.
was an obsessive saver, and he got that from his father,
Yeah.
who lived through the Great Depression.
You don't forget those things. So let's talk about startup plans, state mandates, and in our prep call, just advisor hesitancies. So, with more states requiring IRA programs, how are small business owners reacting? And then, in your opinion, do you think that advisors are starting to get more comfortable playing in that micro space?
I think they really are. I think they're seeing that they have to.
Hmm.
Because if they're not getting involved with their clients who are business owners, then other people are. You look at, you're a Californian, I'm a former Californian. California is now the world's fourth largest economy, exceeding Japan, France, and India.
Hmm.
Now it's mandated that every company in that state has a retirement plan,
Yep.
and you can see what that led to is not a lot of people adopting Cal Savers or as much as they should, but it really for a boon for people in the startup marketplace, like American Funds, like
Hmm.
Principal with Simply, like Standard with Accelerate, and like those fintech providers out there, like
Yep.
the Human Interest, the 401 Goes, you name one. It seems like there's a new one popping up all the time.
Yeah.
And I think you can see a lot more people are now covered. And we've got pretty much all up the West Coast, we've got state mandates. Washington's isn't in place now, but they're working on it being in place for the next couple of years. Oregon Saves is in place, and everyone in Oregon has to have a retirement plan. And you can see that rolling out across the country. I think what we've done with the tax credits is we've tried the carrot, and now we have to try the stick.
Mm.
We've said, hey, 401k plans are free to set up with these tax credits. They'll offset all costs. And now and that hasn't worked as well as they thought they would.
Hmm.
So they've then now started to say, like, you've got these mandates, like you have to have these plans.
In my very exciting um, life outside of work, I'm reading a book on tax planning. And it's about how credits from the government are basically the government telling you, like, hey, we want you to do this. Like, this is important. Consider it. And so let's talk about the tax credits. You just alluded to it. And then unlocking the power of them. So I think most folks know, but just in case, in little sound bites to help advisors as they're sitting down with business owners, what are these startup tax credits, and then how can advisors communicate them to small business owners?
Yeah, so Secure 2.0, which was passed back in 2022, substantially increased the startup tax credit in order to help small business owners set up the plans. And depending on plan design and and what features are chosen, it can be up to $5,000, and it could be even more ongoing. And they're talking right now about Secure 3.0, or actually they thought that they might go with Secure 2.5 or something like that rather than 3.0. But you've got
These
these accredited.
iOS updates now?
I know. I was like, hey, is this? I always thought they should follow the Fast and the Furious franchise. Too secure, too savings, or something like that. You know, uh, Secure 3.5. Washington Drift. But nobody listens to me because most of the time I'm full of it. Uh,
This is great.
yeah. So, you've got these tax credits, and I would really suggest that you work with a local third-party administrator, your CPA, to find out what fits for your company based on the size and the plan design that would work best for you. But basically, the government is saying this is free. And again, if the carrot doesn't work, the stick does. And now California, through Cal Savers, is now going to be looking at people that don't have a plan and starting to find them. So there's absolutely no reason to sit on the sidelines and not have a plan, not save for yourself and not help your employees save for retirement. Because, everybody's, mo- you're going to be able to you're going to hit retirement age, or you're not, or you're going to or your beneficiaries will inherit the money. But either way, it's best to do that.
So auto everything, you mentioned in 2006 when PPA was passed, very exciting time, that you were a rah-rah cheerleader for everything autoed.
Yep.
And it was a win-win in your eyes, which I also agree with, by the way. So can you walk us through now how auto-enrollment, auto-escalation, and even auto-portability are improving participant outcomes, especially for lower wage or possibly folks who have multiple jobs throughout their lifetime?
Yeah. So what you're seeing now is is you're seeing momentum shift into the fact that if you don't make a choice, you'll be into the plan rather than you have to make a choice to be out of the plan. Because a lot of times people would be like, oh, my enrollment paperwork, I've got to fill it out. But something would come up and they'd always forget to do that. And I can tell you that because I was that person when I was working at a third party administrator until the HR person came and put a pen in my hand and sat in my office until I filled out the paperwork because I was just too busy,
Yeah.
But now I would have been swept into the plan at 3% or 6%, and then every year I'd have more saved for me, usually at a 1% increase depending on your plan design, all the way up to at least 10%. And that would be a great thing because starting at 10% is a lot for people
Sure.
to swallow,
Yeah.
but water kind of finds its level, and you're not going to miss 1%, which is really like 0.8% with taxes, or 0.7% depending on what bracket you're in, on a
Mm-hmm.
year by year basis. You'll just kind of see that. And I heard a statistic, this is going way back, that the average American spends 4 hours a year working on their NCAA brackets, but less than 4 minutes a year focusing on their 401k.
I believe it.
So, one of the things that always upset me was then people would put dollar amounts on enrollment forms rather than percentages, because then you'd be locked in at, $50 a month rather than as you get a raise, then your 401k gets a raise too. So now, not only is your 401k getting a raise as you get a cost of living adjustment or a raise or a promotion, but every year it would be going up, up, up until at least it hits 10%. Some people are even looking at doing more than that.
That's awesome. We kind of chatted for a minute about if everyone's doing auto enroll, auto escalate, do plan sponsors need to consider having a safe harbor plan design, the way the math works?
That's a really that's a really great question. And that's probably best left for a third party administrator. So I definitely, consult with your local third party administrators because they're the experts in this. But if you think about it, if you have 9 out of 10 of your employees deferring, and they're deferring at least 3 or 6%, you've got
Oh,
a lot better chance of passing your ADP test than you would if you had a traditional 60% with everybody just doing 3%.
hmm.
Because 60% 3%, doing the math, that's, let's say, 1.8%. So the highly compensated can contribute roughly 4% or 5% of their salary, which might not be enough depending on what kind of W-2 wages they're pulling. Again, this
Yeah.
is why it's complicated and why you should work with your local third-party administrator. But with auto enrollment, you could possibly phase out, say, your safe harbor contributions, or you could use one of the different safe harbor, the different QACA, IACA, or anything like that could have a vesting schedule attached to it.
Did we, besides the Fast and the Furious, which I will be laughing about for a very long time, and the different names of the bills that could come out, did we miss anything that you wanted to cover in today's conversation?
Yeah, I think what you're going to do is the third auto feature besides auto enrollment and auto escalation is auto portability.
Hmm.
And now that you've got a lot of disengaged employees that are going to be in the plan rather than out of the plan, with people switching jobs as much as they are, you could have these small balances left in the plan.
That's a good point.
And Secure 2.0 increased the limit on the force out provision from 5,000 to 7,000, which is the first time in 24 years that was increased. And they also created, auto portability to try to get teachers to move from one plan to another. And right now, a bunch of record keepers, a few record keepers are part of the portability service network, which will automatically move your balance between record keepers, but only if your new company has one of, I think, 4 or 5 record keepers.
Mm-hmm.
And in my 27-year career, I've only worked for one company that had one of those record keepers. So it would have done nothing for me. So, and again, this is only for vested account balances under 7,000. Now, plan sponsors are allowed to give notice to these employees and force them out of the plan if they don't take action and roll it. If it's 1,000 to 7,000, they have to roll it to an IRA. If it's under 1,000, they can cash it out, or they're allowed to roll it over too. And that's one of the things that PenChecks does, is that we'll search for these participants, and if they don't respond, we find them, but it's just getting them to sign the paperwork. We'll open an IRA for them, and then once they contact us to claim their IRAs, and we have about almost 70% of the people claim their IRAs within the first 24 months, they can either choose to cash it out or roll it to an IRA or roll it to a new plan. And one of the things we found was a lot of these people, they don't have Morgan Stanley or Merrill Lynch advisors. They don't have an IRA. So they were choosing the easy button, which is to cash it out. And to help stop the leakage from retirement plans, we created our next level IRA product, which allows them in 4 simple steps to open an IRA with us. Because these force out IRAs, per Department of Labor regulations, have to be invested for capital preservation, because it's not our money. This should only be a short-term holding account. With Next Level IRA, we offer the participants up to 60 investment choices, including a managed account option, where they can easily move that money over and close the savings gap, close the leakage, and continue to save for the long term.
Makes sense. Great. All right. Anything else, Kevin, to add for today?
I think that's about it for me. How are we doing on time?
I think we're good. Yeah. All right. Well, then, that's a wrap for today's conversation, from auto features that boosts participation outcomes to technology to Washington Drift 3.0. It's clear that the barriers to setting up, maintaining, and offering a retirement plan are getting lower. And that's awesome for hardworking Americans. Yes, Kevin.
And I did forget one thing. Yeah. So nothing's finalized, and everything's still up in the air, and it's all just whispers and rumors. But they say that the next secure, whatever it is, Son of Secure or Bride of Secure, whatever they call it, is going to focus on auto enrollment and auto escalation for all plans. Oh. And then it won't just be startups. They'll expand it. This was like the slippery slope to get people used to it. And now with payroll integrations between the record keepers and the companies, it's really simple and easy to get it done.
It just makes sense. I mean, it's a logical conversation that advisors should be having if plans don't offer it, and then why, and just as always, document it. Make sure that there's good governance practices in place.
Because under ERISA, we're tasked with doing what's in the best interest of the participants, and not what's easiest for the administrator, the TPA, the record keeper, or anybody else, but what's in the best interest of the participants, and helping them prepare to live a comfortable life in retirement definitely is. And they can get that done through auto enrollment and auto escalation.
I love it. All right. Well, everyone, I hope you enjoyed today's episode. To learn more, please subscribe to the podcast, leave a review. We love those. Share it on social media, share it with a colleague. And if you want to learn more about Kevin and the team at PenChecks, Kevin, how can folks get in touch with you?
They can either send me an email, kspaeth@penchecks.com. Nobody spells my name right, SPAETH, or call me at 949-306-4367. I got that 949 number from my time at Laguna Beach.
All right. Well, thanks everyone for tuning in to the 401k Marketing Podcast. Until next time, keep making retirement plans accessible, impactful, and modern. Bye. Thank you so much for listening to today's 401k Marketing Podcast. Click the subscribe button below to be notified when new episodes become available. The information covered and posted represents the views and opinions of our guest and does not necessarily represent the views or opinions of 401k Marketing. The content has been available for informational and educational purposes only. We hope you enjoyed.